Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about the best movies of the summer of 2016. So, I'm not going to lie to you, it's been a pretty bad summer movie season. Probably the worst one since 2013, I'd say, probably. Not a great one, but I saw some good movies nonetheless. I have 5 movies on this list, but overall, I think this summer movie season tended to suck tremendously, like a lot. It wasn't very good. And so I think the highs might have seemed higher, but I genuinely think they are good movies. Honorable mentions and the ones I picked, I feel like if you're going to take anything away from summer, these should be it. I mean, we had a lot of things we thought we had more potential in than actually turned out to be, like Suicide Squad and many others. I don't think it was a great summer for big blockbusters at all. It felt like Civil War happened and we were all excited and nothing really came close to that. Whereas last summer we had Jurassic World, which wasn't an amazing movie, but at least commercially we had that one. And, we had Mad Max and things like that. So I feel like this summer was a disappointment for bigger movies, but there are a lot of cool smaller movies. It's always a good season for movies, because there always seems to be, when I do these lists, like best the first 4 months, best the summer, it's hard for me not to come up with 4 or 5. This time it was actually fairly easy because the ones I picked I really liked and it seemed obvious to me. Everything else verged from being okay to terrible to forgettable, was like most of the run of this summer. But it seemed like there are a lot of outliers from the crappy pack of this summer movie season, and so don't get discouraged when it's all terrible, although I don't think there's anything on here from July. Anyway, okay, I'm going to do honorable mentions first. These are in no particular order, and they are Kubo and the Two Strings, Swiss Army Man, and the next two I feel like you could probably swap out for one another, but I like them both. So, The Shallows, Don't Breathe. Oh, I think that's it. Wasn't a very good summer. So, I am going to give numbers to these. They don't really mean a lot, but if you want them to mean something, hey, that's cool. I kind of rank them to make it easy, but one of these could be in my top 10 of the year. That's lower. I don't know. It doesn't mean much. I rank them because why not? So let's get on to the list of the best movies of the past summer. So number 5. Now number 5, I guess I probably could have just done 4 and done this as an honorable mention, but I actually felt very strongly about how much I really love this movie, and I kind of wanted to put it on here because it's definitely a movie I'm probably going to see again, and one of the treasures really of this summer movie going season, even though it was a bunch of poop. And at number 5, it's Pete's Dragon. Very little to do at all with the original. The only things it has in common are the basic concept that there's a kid named Pete, that he has a dragon named Elliot. It's released by Disney. That's kind of it. It doesn't even take place in the same town. It's like a different town, a different setting, a different era. It kind of reminds me of what happened with The Thing from Another World and then John Carpenter's The Thing, where you have two drastically different interpretations of a concept and a story. Where the Wild Things Are was one of my favorite kids' films I've seen, and it's a kids film that understands what's going on in filmmaking and made by a very good filmmaker. Oftentimes kids films live in this weird kind of Hollywood organized bubble that doesn't actually act like what's going on in filmmaking. But it's interesting when they break that mold. They often make more interesting kids films, and some are more interesting than actually good. But Pete's Dragon has a script that's well written enough and has good enough actors that it really, really works. It's very small in its stakes, but it feels so relatable and real. It's such a refreshing turn of pace for a summer that feels boring and bland. We have a film that understands that what you really need to get these films to work is the character and their relations to one another, and particularly the relation of Pete and Elliot, and how wonderful all that can be in a kids film that plays just as well as a slow burn indie kind of drama as it does a big Hollywood movie, all mixed together in kind of a very wonderful and probably one of the better kids films I've seen in a very long time. Number 4 is probably one of my favorite comedies I've seen in a very long time, and one I'm definitely going to see again, and I think it's on Blu-ray. I probably should see it again. But at number 4, it's Popstar, Never Stop, Never Stopping. What's kind of the best thing about Popstar is just how absolutely hilarious it is. I don't think it's really as good at the satire as it is at making me laugh, because I haven't really laughed at a movie as much as I've laughed at Popstar in a while. It kind of doesn't matter what it's satirizing or anything like that, because the jokes land so perfectly, and it has the best jokes that Lonely Island has to offer. It's everything you loved about the digital shorts. It kind of understands the forum and is much a parody of this person as it is a parody of people making documentaries about this person, which I don't think Spinal Tap was as much as this is, really. I think this is being a little more meta with what it's doing than the Spinal Tap approach, although Spinal Tap is a much funnier movie. The main thing about this film is so absolutely hilarious it is. It is really, really funny, and I think that can make any comedy, no matter what it's actually doing in terms of its plot, land more than you think it can. And there are very few times I wasn't laughing. It was just joke after joke after joke. As much as it's making fun of like Justin Bieber, it's making fun of Justin Timberlake, it's like the Style Boys or like the Beastie Boys or something. It's such a mishmash of different things they can make fun of, and it kind of makes me feel like this is the way to do the mockumentary style. And even with something like Documentary Now, which Bill Hader obviously made, even though he's barely in this movie, so it's not even worth mentioning him, but I think maybe that's the way to take mockumentaries, is not to just have a funny kind of situation in a documentary like Christopher Guest did, but also to like take on the meta approach of actually making a documentary in a particular style and making it funny. I think that's probably where the genre is going, and I'm quite liking that. It's kind of smarter, and especially with a genre that lost all of its steam with something like Modern Family, to have something like Popstar come along kind of rejuvenates my faith in it. Number 3 is the last film I reviewed. It is a great crime drama, and probably one of the great crime dramas of our era, and definitely the great crime drama of a summer movie season that sucked. I don't know where I was going with that one. But regardless, it's a smaller movie that I don't really think has gotten enough attention. I really recommend you check it out, because I really, really liked it, and I keep thinking about it. And that movie is, at number 3, Hell and High Water. Hell or High Water captures a kind of criminal desperation and erased American small town, probably more than I've seen any movie do it thus far. It's definitely probably one of the most telling crime drama in a post-economic collapse America. It kind of works in the way a well-oiled machine works, but ends up being able to say something about how depressing the situation is for these guys and the situation for everyone around them, and how they can't nearly escape in it. And there are certain films where you really feel for bank robbers, like Bonnie and Clyde, I think is probably the best example, or Gun Crazy. This film reminds me a lot of Gun Crazy in that it kind of feels like a smaller B movie that you just happened on. It feels like a B movie that got away with saying a lot because no one was noticing. They just wanted the guns and the violence, and they're like, well, as long as we have that, we should be fine. It's really kind of interesting what it says. I think it says a lot about our modern era of America and what exactly are we doing, and it kind of makes like we don't really know, and it feels like we're not headed in the right direction. And you probably agree that they should rob the bank and take that money back and hopefully win their land and do these things out of desperation, and understand all of that because you're trapped within the small town of this economic collapse. This is probably the one movie on this list. If you've seen any of them, you've definitely seen this one, and it's probably the best example of Hollywood doing right and making a ginormous hit. And I guess I don't really need to say anymore, because you probably know what I'm gonna say. And what I'm gonna say is, at number 2, Captain America: Civil War is almost the perfect genre superhero movie from an expanded cinematic universe. By that I mean you can't really understand this film unless you had seen all the previous movies leading up to it, and if you hadn't, I think you'd no doubt probably be pretty lost, making it the perfect Marvel movie. Marvel Comics was always known for their continuity that stretched on and on through issues and issues. You'd have to know years and years of continuity sometimes to understand plot lines, and Captain America: Civil War is even a further example of that, trying to say something about conflict and different ideologies and getting into the ethics of superheroes and vigilantism more so directly than I've really seen other superhero movies do. I know they've gotten into that in like The Dark Knight and the Batman and Superman movie, but in this it like really feels like a discussion, like thinking and talking about the ethics and the morals of these characters, not just like how awesome it was that this guy punched that other guy. That's still in there. I mean, this is very like a fun, audience-friendly movie, and if you're looking for an awesome action movie from Marvel, it does that. The interesting thing about this film is you both understand where they're coming from, and as much as this film takes like Cap's side, frankly, because Captain America, he's like the headline guy or whatever, but like you still are not exactly sure if he's doing the right thing. It casts a lot of doubt on it, more so with Tony Stark, a little less with Captain America, but it's still there. It's kind of like the whole idea that even Dawn of the Planet of the Apes did so well about conflict, is that neither side is necessarily right or wrong. There's certain points that Captain America has that makes a lot of sense. There's certain points that Iron Man has that make a lot of sense. I don't actually necessarily disagree with them. You don't have to be extreme and pick whichever team or something. And this film kind of addresses that in a very adult, mature way. And for my best movie of the whole summer is another film that I reviewed. Well, I shot the review a while ago, but I only edited it now. But I was late to see it, which was a shame. I should have seen it early. It's really probably one of the great oddities, but one of the great films of this summer, and great films people will be talking about and deciphering and figuring out everything that's there, and probably one of the great satires that really works, other than like Popstar is a good satire too. But this is like an intensely rich, satirical, wonderful, surreal, abstract comedy that you really can't forget about and will kind of encroach its way into your soul and your understanding of the universe and just kind of relationship and gender roles, and bring it all to kind of a formation that you didn't think you'd be thinking about it, while still saying a really entertaining love story at the same time. And the number one best movie of the summer of 2016 is The Lobster. The Lobster is very much about relationships and humanity's fear of being alone, set in a dystopian society where being alone could turn you into an animal or have you killed. And also this film is a deadpan comedy. There's a lot of different kind of varying degrees of things that maybe shouldn't fit together but somehow do. I think this film goes a lot into how we perceive someone when they're married or when they're in a relationship, and what that says about them as an adult and as a mature individual, what that says about society, and what these relationships or marriages or being in a relationship says about you as a person and how people view you as a person. It's quite interesting, but also has a very sweet love story within it, which is kind of one of the things you kind of learn about relationships, or maybe I have learned about relationships through being married and so forth, is that when you meet the person that you really want to be with and spend your life with, the whole idea of making you a better person kind of goes away, because you don't really give a shit and you're more wrapped up into your relationship and what it does for the other person and how to help your partnership grow and things like that. And I think that's really kind of what the love story is throughout this kind of surreal weirdness, how we have all these rules in society and you have to follow them and so forth. The Lobster definitely reminds me of more Kafka short stories. It reminds me of calling to mind something that you all know is there but no one really addresses, and almost addressing it in a surreal way makes you be able to say it and say more about it than just actually saying it. So those were what I felt were the best movies of the summer of 2016. Not a great summer, but I feel like I walked away with a lot of great movies regardless of that. It was an interesting summer, even if most of it sucked. It was what it was, and now it's over, and we can move on to the end of the year, where most of the movies we'll be talking about for a while will be coming out, hopefully at least. I will move on to the end of January, where I do the best of the year. I don't do the best of the winter, fall, because then, it just like doesn't really work. But anyway, if you disagree with this list, or you would like to write your own list of what you thought the best movies of the summer were, or you really want to talk about how I was wrong about whatever crappy movie you liked this summer or something, then do so in the comments. Thank you very much for watching this summer. I think it's been a great summer for videos, and I hope you liked what's been going on with Deep Focus. A new episode is coming. Trust me, hopefully it's coming. It's gonna be cool. But that's kind of my list, and that's how I felt about the summer, and now we can all be done with it and move on to fall, where hopefully September won't be as crappy as most of this summer was. So if you have seen any of my list of the best movies of the summer of 2016, then comment below and tell me how wrong I am or something. But also, if you would like to write your own list of what you felt were the best movies of the summer of 2016, please do so below and let me know what you thought they were. But as always, thank you very much for watching, and subscribe if you would like to.